Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 8 o'clock main news. In tonight's headlines, the Moon Sighting Committee will convene tomorrow to spot the crescent of the new lunar month of Shawwal. The Emiri Diwan conveys to citizens and expatriates the congratulations of His Highness the Emir on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The death toll in Gaza passes 1,019 days after Israel launched an offensive on Palestinians. And the US evacuates staff from its embassy in Libya following clashes between rival militias. The Ministry of Justice announced that the Moon Sighting Committee will convene at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow Sunday at the Kuwait Institute for Judicial and Legal Studies to spot the crescent of the new lunar month of Shawwal. The Ministry appealed to all those who could spot the crescent of Shawwal on that night to come forward to the authority for testimony. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Justice seized this opportunity to extend sincere congratulations to His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, and His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, as well as all citizens and expatriates on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of the Maldives, Abdullah Yameen Abdul Qayyum, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency the President of the Republic of the Maldives, Abdullah Yameen Abdul Qayyum, on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, sent a cable of congratulations to Her Excellency the President of the Republic of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, on the occasion of her country's National Day. His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, sent a cable of congratulations to Her Excellency the President of the Republic of Liberia, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, on the occasion of her country's National Day. His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. The Emiri Diwan conveyed to citizens and expatriates the congratulations of His Highness the Emir, Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The Diwan seized this blessed occasion to extend congratulations to His Highness the Emir, His Highness the Crown Prince, Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah, and His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The Emir Diwan also extended congratulations to citizens and residents on the same occasion, wishing the Arab and Muslim nations more prosperous returns of this occasion and Kuwait further security and safety under the wise leadership of His Highness the Emir. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, the Second Deputy Premier and Advisor and Special Representative of the Custodian of the two Holy Mosques, Prince Migrim bin Abdul Aziz Al Saud, and his accompanying delegation arrived at Kuwait International Airport today on a fraternal visit. His Royal Highness Prince Migrim bin Abdul Aziz was received by His Highness Sheikh Jaber Al-Mbarak Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, the First Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamad Al-Sabah, the Deputy Minister of Emiri Diwan Affairs Sheikh Ali Jarrah Al-Sabah, ministers, governors, senior state officials and ambassadors of both countries. With the short humanitarian ceasefire taking place, the death toll in Gaza today passed 1,019 days after Israel's recent aggression against Palestinians. After the announcement of the 12-hour ceasefire, Gaza residents were distraught today as they returned to find many of their homes completely flattened by recent violence. Despite the agreement, Israeli tanks continued to patrol the streets of Khan Yunis. Residents of Gaza City took advantage of the ceasefire to visit local market and stock up on food supplies. Meanwhile, in Khan Yunis in southern Gaza, hundreds marched through the streets in a funeral procession for 20 Palestinians, all from the same extended family, killed in an airstrike overnight. Also today, hundreds of people took part in the funerals of 4 Palestinians who were killed in separate incidents. Despite international pressure to end the Israeli war on Gaza, tensions keep escalating and the already besieged enclave is under a severe humanitarian crisis. More with Majd al-Wahedi from Gaza.
Israeli forces targeted a hospital in Beit Hanun in Gaza. Intense tensioning has left patients and medics in a critical condition. The health ministry stated that till this point, 6 out of 13 hospitals have been damaged severely. Since Israel's bombardment on Gaza, not just hospitals have been targeted, thousands of homes have also been destroyed, leaving 44% of the population displaced.
جينا لقينا كل دارنا زي ما انت شايف مهدمة وطيورنا ميتة ودوابنا ميتة وكل حتى الشجر مكسر والعمارة كلها رايحة. ما فيش شيء ضايل فيها وأواعينا كلها رايحة ما لقيناش شيء جوا كلها خربانة ديار.
Despite the diplomatic pressure to stop the violence, Israel continues its grand invasion and airstrikes. Hamas and other groups also keep firing rockets into Israel. Since the launch of Israel's Operation Protective Edge, the death toll in Gaza has exceeded 900, with thousands injured. The United Nations say that 80% of those killed are civilians. Yet both Hamas and Israel have yet to agree on conditions to a ceasefire.
We hope that as soon as possible that all parties can conclude a ceasefire agreement in order to save the lives of 1.9 million Palestinians who are living in very difficult conditions due to the Israeli escalation. Israel is targeting the civilians and civil premises as hospitals and ambulance cars. This escalation must be stopped.
It is clear that this war is becoming a signature in the Palestinian conflict, with people claiming it to be the beginning of another intifada. The war on the already besieged Gaza has caused a humanitarian crisis. With huge shortages in shelters, hospitals, water and other resources, conditions are worsening quickly. Regardless of whether a ceasefire holds or not, civilians have paid a heavy price for being part of this long conflict. The situation on the Strip and in towns across the border remains tense. Residents live in fear and despair, while the world holds its breath in hope for a peaceful resolution. Majd al-Wahedi, Kuwait TV, Gaza.
Foreign ministers from 7 nations today called for an extension of the 12-hour humanitarian ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius also urged world leaders to negotiate a long-term truce that addresses Israel's concerns about security as well as Palestinian demands to open borders to more people living in Gaza and spurring economic development there. Fabius spoke on behalf of diplomats from Britain, Germany, Italy, Turkey, Qatar and the United States who gathered for a day of talks in Paris. He also raised concerns for civilians in both Gaza and Israel who have been caught in the crossfire of the war that is now in its 3rd week. Palestinians announced taking the first step towards filing a complaint against Israel at the Hague-based International Criminal Court, accusing it of committing war crimes in Gaza. However, the progress of the complaint may not be fulfilled before the end of the Palestinian procedure to join the ICC. Fatma Abdel Karim has a story from Ramallah.
Senior Palestinian officials accused Israel of committing war crimes in Gaza during the ongoing offensive that began 20 days ago, and announced filing a complaint on Friday to the International Criminal Court in The Hague. The complaint is in early progress steps, despite the PA haven't yet signed to the Rome Statute.
Palestine is not yet a member of the ICC. It wants to join the Rome Statute, but the progress can take up to 14 days. Israel too has signed but not ratified to the statute, so it's also not a member. The complaint has to be made between 2 states. This condition has not yet been identified in our case.
Palestinians accuse Israel of perpetrating war crimes against unarmed civilians in the West Bank, as 9 Palestinians fell martyr in the last 24 hours after clashes broke out after Israeli forces provoked demonstrators who marched towards illegal West Bank checkpoints in different locations in Nablus, Ramallah, Jenin, Hebron and Bethlehem.
This is the genuine unifying population reaction of the Palestinian people, which says enough condemnation to the occupation's war crimes. What we need is practical steps and holding onto the choice of popular resistance.
Thousands of Palestinians are demonstrating on a daily basis in protest of the Israeli assault on Gaza. The main demand of people taking the streets is the signing of the Rome Statute immediately by the PA and cutting off all ties with Israel, including the security coordination, in order to level up the diplomatic confrontation. The road ahead of Palestinians is signaling a nationwide confrontation with Israel, but not without the political track. Palestinians have always considered the international law to be on their side. However, now is the time to make the reality check with the world's top criminal court. Fatma Abdul Karim, Kuwait TV, Ramallah, Palestine.
The United States said it has temporarily evacuated staff from the Libyan capital Tripoli over security concerns. It said staff, including Marine Guards providing security to the embassy, were transferred to Tunisia due to the ongoing violence resulting from clashes between Libyan militias. Secretary of State John Kerry said there was a real risk to staff. The U.S. Embassy in Tripoli was already operating on limited staffing. All remaining personnel were driven overland to Tunisia in the early hours of Saturday. The State Department has also urged U.S. nationals not to go to Libya. It's the second time in more than 3 years that the U.S. has closed its embassy in Libya. Russia says that new EU sanctions against it over the Ukraine crisis will jeopardize security cooperation against terror. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the EU would bear the blame for the move, which sees 15 officials and 18 entities subject to asset freezes and visa bans. The EU and the US accuse Russia of backing Ukraine's rebels. Moscow denies this. The 28-nation EU reached an outline agreement last night to impose the first economic sanctions on Russia over its behavior in the Ukraine. Earlier on Friday, the Ukrainian army said its troops had come under artillery fire from the Russian side of the border overnight and were attacked by rebels in several areas in the east. Australia's Prime Minister Tony Abbott said today that his country's mission was to secure the site where the Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 crash landed and to bring the victims' remains back to their families. He added that the operation to bring them home was his sole focus. All 298 people aboard the plane were killed and 37 Australian citizens and residents were on board. Meanwhile, monitors from the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe set out on a fresh field investigation at the crash site of the downed plane. 40 Dutch military police officers arrived in East Ukraine, hoping to investigate the Malaysian airliner. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. And to recap tonight's news, here are the headlines once again. The Moon Sighting Committee will convene tomorrow to spot the crescent of the new lunar month of Shawwal. The Emiri Diwan conveys to citizens and expatriates the congratulations of His Highness the Emir on the advent of Eid al-Fitr. The death toll in Gaza passes 1,000, 19 days after Israel launched an offensive on Palestinians. And the US evacuates staff from its embassy in Libya following clashes between rival militias. Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening.